Yeah.
Okay.
I've been bird hunting.
All right, I want to go ahead and call this meeting to order of the Policy Board of the Monongalia County, Morgantown, Monongalia Metropolitan Planning Organization. Sorry, I almost said Monongalia County Commission Chambers. That's where we are tonight, so, yeah.
MMMPO, yeah.
We're in a new location, and we appreciate county commissioners allowing us to be here in the space, and appreciate the city as they're going through renovations. We've always been there,
Yeah.
so I know it's a little bit of a change this evening. So I want to call the meeting to order. Our first order of business is the public comment section, and we have some folks that have signed up, and maybe I just call your names and speak if that's okay. First is Mark J. Nesselrode.
Are you interested? Yeah.
Okay, if you're interested in speaking, I
Yeah.
should say.
Say who I'm representing, but I'll pull all my hats on.
Okay.
I mean, I'm really just here because I saw, and Ron let me know that there was an agenda item with exit 155. I'm on the transportation committee with the partnership. I'm a citizen, youth baseball coach on the Milan Park board. Honestly, whatever we can do to get that project done sooner than later, the exit part of it from the interstate as well as the road to Milan Park will be a much safer situation and really help the development out there and all the activities that are going on. So if you need anything from me on it, please let me know. I'm in full support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Russ Rogerson,
He's good.
Matthew Cross.
Greetings, my name is Matthew Cross. I live at 524 Milford Street in Morgantown. I am with the Pedestrian Safety Board. Thank you to the DOH specifically for all the projects and money that are
Could you speak up a little bit, please?
coming into Morgantown. Greatly appreciate that. Drove by Reynolds Hall yesterday on Beach Church, and it looks like there are kids crossing everywhere. And I looked at the Stantec plan from about a year ago. I don't see any provisions for any alternate crossing aside from Huff Street. So if that's going to be it, I would make a request for RFBs if they're not in line already, and some low-level pedestrian lighting there across from Reynolds Hall at that crosswalk, which I've been requesting for about 5 years. I think it really needs to happen if kids are going to cross there, and it looks like they're going to. The surface crossing looks like it's going to be imminent. So please consider that. Mr. Austin announced at the CAC the Willis Street proposal. Thank you very much for that. It's been a long time coming. Every year I get out there at Willie Street and I see the weeds on the sidewalk, and it's horrible. And for the past few years, I've got out there myself and cut those weeds down so kids can make the crossing. You know, I've got some pictures here that's absolutely horrible. You can't even walk on the sidewalk. And you wonder what parents think when they're bringing their kids into town. What a crappy looking place. They can't even keep the sidewalks clear. So an upgrade to Willie Street would be greatly appreciated. And I know the city has something to do with that too, with the negligent property owners. We've talked about that. I just bring that to light now because it's a comprehensive group and it needs to be done specifically with that. So let me end and thank the DOH again. The mile ground looks good. We're looking forward to the projects of Patterson Drive and Beach Church widening and Willie Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Dr. Kevin Trimbush.
Hello again. Thank you for hearing me once more. Appreciate everybody. And I wanted to just one more time comment on, obviously, the Van Voorst Road project. You all have heard me talk about this for some time now. I've been experienced with this now enough with you all. I do appreciate the work. I know it's hard work. And I feel like in this situation, I am on the bad end of decisions that are happening. And there's possibly no other way to go about this. However, I did enough with you guys through conversation and evidence production to show that I think there was a better way to do this project, and I'm here one more time to ask that you consider not funding this project. I believe that this board's website is called plantogether.org. I don't feel that you have lived up to that website name. I think we could have done better with planning together. I feel, based on your missions, that a couple of things should be important to you, and probably are. I know you're good people, but we are talking about tax revenue generation. We're damaging businesses and landowners when it's not necessary to do so. It's just not necessary to do so. We've presented the evidence that it isn't necessary, And we've shown you where the plans, I believe, still are not signed and stamped by engineers that show that where the right-of-way actually exists. So I feel as if there should be consideration of how to not damage ingresses to businesses that are paying your taxes. More importantly, though, is I believe that your constituents would really appreciate the concern of public safety. We've heard from engineers that are both from the Department of Highways and from independent engineers that this is not the optimal approach to address this intersection. Again, this is from independent engineers and also those that from the state of West Virginia, Department of Highways, that said, we would like to do this a different way. But we boil it down to economic matters that are preventing it from being safe, and we are now creating a very hazardous intersection. As a healthcare provider, I feel obligated to let you guys be aware that this should be very strong in your consideration of how this project goes forward on Van Voorst Road. I think that it is extremely dangerous in the way that this intersection is going to be offset. And personally, yes, it is going to affect my ingress, therefore my business, as it will my neighbors who also could produce tax revenue for this city. Thanks.
Thank you. And before we go further, and I apologize, we just got a message that I'm not sure if we're streaming or if the sound's on correctly, so we wanted to check to make sure that we're all good as far as the stream's going. We just got a message that they couldn't pick it up on local television, so. You're good?
You're good. Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Danny.
Sorry about that. So maybe some folks missed the very early part, but hopefully we're up and good now. Mr. Leonard George.
I'm here about the Van Voorst property, and my property, which is Old Palace, is beside Dr. Trimbush's property. And all of you have decided, and tell me if I got it wrong, to let this project go on. And it's hurtful to me. We're not going to stop it. I think somewhere in these various meetings we had, there's winners and losers, and you've decided to make us the losers. I'm distraught over the fact that the DOH can turn a survey into you, signed by Jimmy Reston, without a PE stamp, without a date, and it becomes gospel. I'm sure I couldn't turn in a survey to you guys that wasn't a professional PE. This could be done without damaging and entombing our property and Dr. Trimbush's property into nothingness forever. There's several ways to do it, but the system has decided winners and losers. At this point that we've been deemed to be the losers, we can't even get the DOH, and you could stop it, to give us the right to put our own bridge in off of Burrow Street that would give us some way out of being entombed. But they won't do it, and I doubt if you guys will do it. But in a sense, it doesn't hurt us as bad at Old Palace on our property, but it's just 2 acres that'll be entombed. But it does put Dr. Trimbush, in my opinion, completely out of business. Now, everybody here who's been with government is going to say, well, Dr. Trimbush and us are going to be compensated. And that compensation is always so good that all of you people have jumped up in various times and said, gee, DOH, please take my property. So I think it's wrong. It's the way the system works. And I think you should be protecting the losers, because there is several ways to do this without having losers. And ultimately, even the losers are the government, the tax dollars. And the biggest loser is Dr. Trimbush here. He's out of business. He's got, at his age, he's got to go start up someplace else or just retire early and move to Florida or something like that. And even with that, when he goes out of business, and you could say I'm exaggerating, he's not going to go out of business. There's probably not one person here that's going to say, I really enjoy this road and how this worked out and how this intersection came together. Dr. Trimbush, let me give you $1,000 out of my pocket, because you don't value him as a citizen or a friend to even do that. Everyone will benefit, but no one will really reach in their pockets. We'll just say the DOH gave you the money you deserved, and everybody just can't wait to have the DOH condemn their property because they're such great property owners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody have any questions for me?
So, in public's portion, we wouldn't, but I'll
Oh,
ask,
okay.
we're at the end. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So that's all we have. Is there anyone else? We have no one else signed up to speak, and I don't think there's anyone else unless one of the presenters want to make a public statement. So, well, thank you.
And
for
Mr.
your
President,
comments.
just for the record, I mean, individual members are free to comment at the end when we generally have our general comment.
Comment, yes. Moving on to the committee reports, the Citizens Advisory Committee.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, it's approval of minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Thank you for keeping me straight, Bill. Approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Those minutes will stand as printed. Now to the committee reports. Citizens Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, Mr. Bildso was unable to make the meeting tonight. Mr. Cross is a member of the Citizens Committee, and I will go ahead and report if he would like to add to this comment, that would be fine. But the committee looked at all the agenda items, particularly the TIP amendments, as well as the public involvement policy and the engineering services, and they all were unanimously recommended by both the TTAC and the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you.
And we did have a very good quorum.
Good. So you want to move on to your executive director's report?
Treasurer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You need to
Treasurer's
get your
report.
glasses
I do
back
need to
on.
put my glasses back on. Treasurer's report, Patty?
All right, thank you. Our balance at the beginning of June was $19,956.71. We had 3 deposits during the month of June totaling $39,743.82. 19 disbursements went out for a total of $56,995.61, leaving us a balance at the end of June into July of $2,704.92. July, we had 3 deposits totaling $88,731.21, 21 disbursements totaling $24,398.29. Ending balance for July was $67,037.84.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Treasurer's report will stand as presented. Executive director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would just note that that very low balance at the end of June was because we were able to pay off our Stantec contract at 100%. So we didn't have to carry it over into the current fiscal year. And really appreciative of the county and the city who worked to get their payments to us in a timely fashion so we could do that. Thank you very much. We have some really good news. We got our RAISE grant for the design of the Greenbag Road project in the amount of $4.2 million. So that will go forward to design the 2 portions of Greenbag Road that are not within the current DOH project limits. That would be the portion from essentially the signal at the Giant Eagle entrance to Don Knotts Boulevard, which is a very twisty-turny, substandard segment of road, and also the portion of Greenbag Road from Lucky Lane all the way down to Deckers Creek Boulevard. The study also includes a feasibility study of putting in a multimodal trail parallel to Greenbag Road, but well off-road, as identified in the MPO's 2015 study, to determine the feasibility of that project, and if it is found to be feasible, to actually design that project. This is a very exciting grant. We are the only MPO in the state that has gotten a RAISE grant that was not associated with the Division of Highways, so we're very happy and proud of that. There is a caveat, of course, that if the funding is not enough to pay for all the roadways and designs and so forth, then we need to figure out a way to come up with whatever that shortfall is. But there are several other issues associated with the grant and how it's going to be handled that I would like to discuss with our executive committee before we move forward, and I plan to set up a meeting with that shortly. But it's a fairly drawn-out process on how we're going to handle that. I would really appreciate the guidance of the executive committee on that. But we're ecstatic to have the grant, and we're very, very pleased. Another item is, I may have mentioned, but I'm not sure that I did, Jing Zhang, our planner two, is the president-elect, I believe, of the APA International Division. So he is heading up a national organization, or a subgroup of a national organization, and we're very happy for him, and it shows his professionalism and it's recognized by his colleagues. Also, I had circulated to the policy board that we were interested in potentially hosting the West Virginia Association, the West Virginia Planning Conference. In discussion at the last West Virginia AMPO meeting, that conference is either going to move to the end of 2023, the fall of 2023, or to the spring of 2024. So there have been no other volunteers to host it, so there's a good chance that we will probably be hosting that event, but that's where it is. I'm actually thankful because we won't have to rush and get an agenda packet together for that. But that'll be a good process. And also, lastly, I have been nominated to serve on the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations National Board. I'm one of 5 candidates for 2 seats. I think I'd mentioned that possibility to the policy board, and the nominating committee reviewed my credentials as well as the AMPO National Board, and they approved my running for that board.
Congratulations.
Very good. Good. Point of clarification, I should know this, but is Lucky Lane around the Mountain View School? Is that where that?
Yeah,
That is-
it's the entrance right there off of Greenbag Road that goes back to what's it, Dollar General and that development
Okay.
right
Oh,
there.
yeah.
That's
Okay.
Lucky Lane.
Okay, thank you.
And it also comes out on Dorsey Avenue.
Okay.
Right.
Any questions for the executive director?
Yes, if you don't mind. Out of curiosity, is there any possibility that there's in our study on the Greenbag Road, that there might be a connection to White Park as part of that trail?
That is farther than the extents go. The extents of the trail that we were looking at essentially go to the, was it elementary school?
Yes.
Right there. And that would be, and that's an off-road path, and in fact, I've talked to some cyclists that actually are able to travel down through there from the school to the rail trail, the Deckers Creek Rail Trail, but no, it doesn't go as far as White Park. It's just, I hate to say it, a bridge too far.
If there's any possibility, let us know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. But we will have the sidewalk with the project that's currently.
Look forward to that. And if any alternate method of transportation through that corridor would be wonderful.
And you do have, and again, I don't recall the road, but they annexed in the city back 20 years ago, but just above the point there, there's a city street that goes out and it drops at the very end. It's a dead-end street there, but it literally goes to near where there's the old Valley View baseball field. Some of you are familiar with that, and South Middle School, but it will drop you in that White Park area right there. If you go up that street and go over that hill, it drops you right down to Valley View, actually, is where it is.
I think that's a paper street, didn't it? From
No,
that
there's
point on.
there's actually houses on that.
No, I mean,
that
where
street.
you're talking
Oh,
about.
yes, the
part that's not
yes,
open
that I'm
still,
talking about,
it's-
but it'll drop you right into there on a paper street.
Meaning you don't have to condemn any property.
Right, exactly. So,
And I will say that there was already a report that residents were using that path to go toward Giant Eagle already.
yeah.
You know, any kind of recommendations as to what might be done there would be helpful.
Yeah.
Certainly the
That would have
city-
to be separate from the raise grant, because that's a very defined
Yeah.
process. But
Well-
with MPO staff will look into it.
Good, thank you.
See what we can do.
Any other questions? Thank you, appreciate the report. We're going to go to the presentation of West Ridge, and I'm especially thankful to our county commissioners, because as you all probably have already heard, they worked very diligently to bring forward a potential opportunity And I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Bloom to, if it's all right, to introduce your all's presentation as well. So.
Thank you. On behalf of the Mon County Commission, I'm quite excited that Megan is here to present information on the infra grant which the Mon County Commission submitted. If awarded, this grant will expand and enhance the DOH's planned Exit 155 project. And Megan will get into the details of that expansion and enhancement. But the bottom line is this. It will allow us to have a true gateway from I-79 to Morgantown and WVU, and it would truly connect the region, including Morgantown, Star City, Westover, and more directly to Milan Park and all the community resources out there. We've had widespread support at all levels. Thank you to the regional municipalities that helped us, and Senators Manchin, Capito, and Representative McKinley for providing letters of support. We also want to thank Milan Park and our partner Westridge. And I'd like to share a quote that was, to me, what sums up the whole process from Senator Capito on the grant application. Montague County continues to be among the fastest growing regions of West Virginia, and it's important we have expanded reliable infrastructure in place to support expansion and development, Senator Capito said. The I-79 Chaplain Hill Gateway project would upgrade the existing Exit 155 interchange and adjacent roads, as well as replace bridges that are currently in poor, I wouldn't even say poor, horrible conditions, which limits expanded highway capacity. If awarded, these funds and this project would have a significant impact on the development of the Morgantown area, and it's why I have personally advocated to Transportation Secretary Buttigieg, and this is Senator Capito saying, on behalf of the Mon County Commission's application. And with that, I will now turn it over to Megan O'Reilly, Director of External Relations for Westridge, to present the grant. And we're very excited. We've seen it, the presentation, but again, I really think this is something exceptional. So, and it works.
And it works.
And it works. That's what I
That
was
was
more
the
worried
first
about
step.
that than anything else.
Thank you. It's always fun when you have a new system.
Yes.
Thank you for having me to speak on the grant. I want to start, as we're talking grants, Bill, and say congratulations for the RAISE grant. As I understand, that was one of 2 in the state of West Virginia, and I know that was a highly competitive grant cycle, so congratulations. And a widespread thank you to the Policy Board. The timing of this grant came out, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, the NOFO, was released right as you were working on the transportation plan. And your efforts to quickly make sure that each element of this grant application were included at various tiers, highlighting the need for multimodal access to Milan Park and across the region. We were able to cite all of that in the grant, and having a body like an MPO reinforce what we're asking for is so crucial when you're making these grant applications. So thank you for that effort. So let's see. So I want to start and describe a bit of the project scope. This is an enhancement and an expansion of the work currently planned at 155. And let me scroll into. I won't play the whole thing, but
Yeah, they had to already move past that.
There's some lovely other videos in there as well that you should all check out in your free
That
time.
got wiped out. Yeah.
Here we go. So let me get you this project map here, just as we're talking about it. So this is enhancement and expansion of the 155 work. So we're getting a lot of questions. I imagine you all are as well, as the difference of those 2 projects. So the DOH project, this 155, is that diverging diamond interchange at the interstate, so that DDI, to help with traffic flow throughout the area. As we know, as Mark mentioned, there's a lot of traffic concerns there, and you've been hearing those. We included, or rather the DOH project includes a flyover from Star City, so as you have major traffic events in town, the expedited ability to get everyone back onto the interstate and out of town. And, excuse me. And then the grant project, where it's that expansion. We looked at that need of Milan Park, the amount of community benefits there, the need to create safe, reliable access into Milan Park to the bus garage with Mr. Kelly here. Just behind it, we looked at an expansion there. So you'll see that route, the video highlights 155, so you see the yellow there, and then that expansion over to Milan Park and to the Chaplain Hill Business Park. And what this project does at the largest level is it creates this beautiful gateway into Morgantown. So it's your first exit, and you all know this, coming south from the Pennsylvania line. It creates that access into Morgantown, into WVU in the east, and then it connects you to all of the economic development occurring to the west, as well as Milan Park, which continues to grow and expand and become a community resource in so many levels, from sports and athletics to community resources. So a really critical place for us all to connect to. And another interesting and lovely piece of this, I'm looking at you, Mayor, is the multimodal connection. So this would connect us to the rail trail and then all the way west to Milan Park with multimodal connectivity. That was important in the grant as well. It was something we heard needed to be part of it, and especially prioritized in your plan. But we found that connection and that ability to provide access to all members of the community is particularly crucial here. So let's talk through, as we're talking through the grant, and I'll kick us back to the website if I can. Yep, there we go. So we have this public-facing grant website. We're in the stages of this now. The NOFO came out in late March. It was a pretty quick turnaround. We had about 2 months to deliver a pretty massive grant application. And so now on the tail end of that, really speaking with elected officials, going back to our federal representatives and asking for their support. And so we've created this site. We have a video at the start that provides an overview of the entire grant application, the why. And then what becomes very important as well, we all know the traffic and safety concerns on Chaplain Hill Road. We know the benefits of Milan Park. But considering that this is going to DC and to a review team that isn't familiar with Mon County, driving home all the benefits that we have here. And the videos are I'd say, unusual. In my past life working in consulting, we did a lot of grant submissions, and often it's a Word document. But we did, given the uniqueness, want to make sure that we really communicated all that we have here to the review committee. So I'd encourage you to check out all of those. Excuse me. And then there's a description of the project details that, as the commissioner mentioned, the poor fair condition, which is their engineering term, bridges, but the improvements there, which help the larger infrastructure system, and then that widened road to Chaplain Hill to Mont Boulevard, and the shared use path there in that multimodal path that we keep talking about. And then the 4-lane to Milan Park, which we then extended. You'll see that 3,600-foot extension. Initially, we looked at just going to the first entrance in Milan Park, and in talking to the board, got their feedback that accessing that second entrance would be really crucial as well. So the grant includes that. How to explain? So there is the DOH project, there is the grant. They are complementary of each other. The grant would not slow the ongoing DOH work. If awarded, which we are hearing and hoping will be in the next month or two, so September, October, so we're a pretty quick timeline on this. But if awarded, expands and enhances that work. So a lot of questions about, does this slow Exit 155? It does not. That's moving forward. I think we're looking at a 23 for the let of the bridge work. So moving forward pretty quickly, actually. And then the project corridor. So, excuse me, we have 155 defined. The beautiful part of submitting this grant with a project that's already underway of that scale is we had the answers to so many of the questions. Many of the other questions about the sort of expansion to Milan Park is environmental concerns, geotechnical, and thankfully also a lot of that has already been completed through work that we're doing at Westridge, as a lot of that route would come through the Westridge property, so that alleviates some right-of-way concerns as well. And so while it looks a bit analogous in this map, that's probably not too far from where it is now, that as the grant moves forward, if the project is awarded, then we'd go into design phase. And so this is at a very high level at the moment. And let's see, I know Bill wanted me around 10, 15 minutes. I guess I would, we are hoping to hear in the next month any sort of encouragement to the federal government, our legislators there would be welcome. I think it's sort of in their hands at this point, along with the DOT and their review. And then this is, as we know, at least as far as I've heard, the only federal grant, the only INFRA grant being submitted for northern West Virginia. So that's good for us as a county submitting, but it's also a great way to say, hey, we'd really like your support. So yes, with that, we'd really like your support. And feel free to please share this website with anyone that you think would be beneficial. And I'm certainly here to answer any questions. We included on this, just as you're doing that, elected officials who provided letters of support, and the list is comprehensive. So that's been critical there as well.
Any questions?
Just if you want to clarify why we're very positive towards this is because, as you said, we checked the boxes, and you might want to just say what they were, but the one that really stood out was about connecting communities disrupted, which fit exactly what we were trying to do. So it was almost written for us, this. So if you want to just go into that a little bit so that people understand why it's more than just going to Milan Park.
Absolutely. So each year, as the grant comes through under a different administration, typically they look at connections, they look at something called the benefit cost analysis. So they look at the cost savings of safety improvements, et cetera. But then each administration has highlighted goals, and under this one, it was reconnecting communities. So communities divided by things like I-79 becomes really critical. Multimodal access becomes high on that list. And then access to community resources specifically. So Milan Park, not only because it's a beautiful place, but because it's a resource that it is. And thank you, Commissioner, for that. We really did, as we were going through the NOFO, we hit so many of the requests. It did feel like this was sort of hand-tailored to everything that we were doing in Mon County.
And Megan, the grant request is $95 million.
That's correct.
And there's the exit 155 that is already programmed in at $66 million. One question we had was, what happens to the exit 155 if this grant isn't approved?
Isn't approved. So the DOH has committed $66 million. The Secretary, thank you, by the way, has reinforced that. So the project moves forward. The 155 work continues. This grant, as you mentioned, is the enhancement and extension of that work. So it builds on it. It takes what is already a very good project and makes it an even better one for the region.
And one thing that we have seen with the submission of this grant, we've actually seen the Department of Highways really move at a much rapid pace in regards to exit 155. So they don't want that project, and again, I'm not putting words in their mouth, but I don't think they want that project to delay this if it's awarded. So that's a good sign that they see value in this and the possibility that this could occur.
Entirely, yes.
And one final thing that I have to add, we're the MMMPO, the planning organization. And what's so amazing about this grant is never before, we always, in West Virginia, build just enough to get it done. And that's why the DOH worked with us and said, that's why when you say enhancement, we're thinking of the future for the next 50 years and where the growth is. And that's what we should be thinking of, rather than just catching up, we're moving forward. And that's what the key is on this grant.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mayor Celine had a question.
Yeah, good.
So, I'm curious about connections, starting at the end of the Star City Bridge, all the way to Milan Park, and the bus garage, and anywhere else you want to look up. And I'm curious what parts of that are in your proposal, and what parts of that do we need to still work on?
So you have the connection to the bus garage. That's in that 3,600 added feet at Milan Park. That's the one you're, yep. So you have that included. You have Star City Bridge included. You have the connectivity, you would need the connectivity to the rail trail, I believe. And we can sit down also later if you'd like to pull down
There's been a grant in Star City to connect the end of the Star City Bridge to the trail, the end in Star City to the trail. But I don't think that grant is active anymore, but there certainly have been plans before to connect that.
Would
My
love to
husband
hear more
wrote it.
about that.
So maybe we could revive it. I think it just didn't quite, pardon?
How old is the grant? How long ago?
1930, no.
No. I don't know if it was
5 to 10
8 years ago or 10 years ago, or, but it was alive for about 6 or 7 years or something, and I'm not sure it's active anymore, but there have been plans.
The connection? Do you know which grant process it went through?
Probably.
Yes, it was,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah,
it was.
because he
Yes.
worked on it for a few years, and then Ella
Yeah.
Belling worked on it for some other years.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
I don't know
know,
why it kinda fell off the radar either, but.
don't know either, but I just know that
look it up.
eventually good projects happen apparently. So it would be really great to connect that, because
Mhm.
the trail there, if people could get up onto the boulevard, then they could get to all these, they could get to the vets, they could get to the pharmacy, you know.
Yep.
I happen to live up on the other side of Star City. Some accident, I'm not in Star City, but anyway, I would think that that would be useful to many people, that if someone's walking on the trail and they wanna get up to the vet,
Very.
or
Could-
whatever they need, I mean, it would be a very good connection, just to get that bridge connected uptown. So anyway, that's why I'm asking questions.
No,
is
that's great.
because-
I'm happy to
Because
have
there are a
them.
lot of visions around here that kind of come back around, and I'm hoping that that will,
Mhm.
that will.
If I may,
Yeah.
if you can recall what the project name was, because oftentimes what happens is, the reason why they go away is whoever the applicant was, whatever the match was, oftentimes fails to materialize, or the cost for the project
Mhm.
went well beyond what they could afford, and then it just kind of went away. I know that for a while, DOH was using toll credits and stuff like that for match, and then that kind of went away. So I'm not sure what happened, but if you can get me the name of the grant, I can try to track it down.
I can work on
I don't know
finding
if
it.
it's been closed, or if it's just kind of, we've got
Just left it.
unfortunately too many of them just kind of hang in limbo.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they'll come back around a few years later, the sponsor comes back up with more money or something like that. But let me
Yeah.
know what that is, and I can see if
Yeah.
I can't track that down. But,
Yeah, because Ella would know the most right now, and I'll probably call her
Mhm.
tomorrow.
This grant, was this the build grant? Which one was it?
It's the old, so it's the infra grant now, the
Infra.
multi,
Yeah.
MPGG grant cycle.
You said an interesting word there, about reconnecting communities.
Yeah.
And as most everybody knows, there's a grant opportunity
Mhm.
out there right now called Reconnecting Communities. And I guess my question is there, because what oftentimes happens as well is, while you might be asking for whatever it is, 95 million, they may say, well, will you take 30?
Right, that's what we're.
And so, do you have, is there a plan by the county, the developer, you already got the Reconnecting Community grants teed up to submit? Because I think that deadline was October 15th, I wanna say.
Sounds right.
So
Okay.
that might be something that you might wanna have teed up if
Okay.
this doesn't work out. And if you don't know
That's
by
good.
October 15th, I
We
would
still
still submit the
submit.
entire grant over again.
Mhm.
But it's got another emphasis
That's a
on
great
the whole
idea.
idea of reconnecting community. There's certain boxes, obviously, that have to be rechecked or
Mhm.
additionally included. So I would strongly
Sure.
recommend to follow up on that, because 95 million is a large chunk of change. Every grant that we've gotten so far, I don't think we've ever gotten really what we've asked for, so.
But this one is really a lot smaller than the other ones that have been
Mhm.
submitted to the feds. In fact, we're really very low. And we couldn't believe it, 95 million. The other ones were so much higher. So that's why we think we have a chance.
I have a question,
Sure.
maybe a statement first, and then to follow up with a question. So I recently participated in a EDA tourism grant, and when we went into the process, they said, here's the deal, there's 13 states in this region, there's gonna be $90 million total for the whole region, each state's gonna get one project, and you can get multiple ones, go to it. And here's the total amount of money. So I guess, to that point, what is the total amount of money available in the program? And do you have any ideas, or certain geographic areas that will get projects guaranteed because they're a geographic area, or is it just all 50 states?
So I don't offhand know the total. I do know it's larger. It's a larger scale than this has been funded in the past, significantly more. I want to say we're in the billions. I'm looking at Bill in case he knows offhand, but it is large. Typically, they don't, sort of lean towards areas as clearly in the NOFO, since it's a countrywide application. But I do think typically, you know, there's efforts to support communities that need that support. So I'm hoping that puts us higher rung.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Director Austin, is this similar to what he's talking about with the Reconnecting Communities grants? Is that similar to that conversation we had about that area around?
Yes, that is actually the same conversation.
Okay.
I had brought it to the attention of the commission and the county planning director, as well as I think I've spoken to Megan about it.
Okay, and that was
As an alternate.
specifically, I know we talked about Osage area and
Right.
and
Right.
connected.
And that's exactly the area. I've also mentioned it to Star City, if there's a way to mitigate Don Knotts Boulevard through the middle of there.
Mhm.
And we've had some preliminary discussions about that, but
Okay,
I haven't heard more recently.
all right, thank you.
Mayor Sling?
I just was curious then, the area that you're contemplating making some sort of a multimodal connection, will that be kind of a separate side path type of connection?
So you'll have a dedicated, you know when you have sidewalks right on the road and they're terrifying?
Uh-huh,
It's
like
not
that.
that. It is a dedicated bike
Yeah.
pedestrian path. So you'll have and again, hasn't been designed yet, is strategy, but will be removed from the
Yes.
road, yes.
And somehow
The one
will
that is
go
less of a
under-
harrowing
somehow will go
feeling.
under the overpass.
We're looking at how we connect it all, but the idea is
That's
the
the
connectivity
concept.
throughout.
Peek at what they do in Finland,
Okay, I will.
because they do side paths beautifully. You can get to any mall on a side path. You can get to any adjacent community on a side path. It's fabulous. Well, I mean, why not look at who
Where it
does it
works.
well?
Well, if we get the
Since
funds,
we're looking at something.
if we get the
Absolutely.
funds, hopefully we will.
Well, and if you have control of the property and you can have that space,
Mhm.
that's the key thing, is to have the space, so that
Absolutely.
you're not right on it, so that it
Exactly,
is
yes.
pleasant to come out to Mylan Park.
Yes.
Instead of terrifying.
Yes, exactly.
Thank
That's
you.
That's a good
Sure.
point.
Thank
And
you for your-
again, consistent with this project you brought up right away, but this project has an awful lot of area that's already within control of the county and the developer. So those right-of-way issues are minimal. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't say they're always minimal, because you can have one right-of-way issue and it's still a big
There's
deal.
one.
But,
There's
um,
always one.
There is one, I think, we know
yeah,
that.
I mean, but you gotta pay attention to them all, but
Right.
you don't have, you know,
No.
you're not plowing through, area that, we don't already control a lot of that.
This is not the mile ground.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I would really say to the public that's watching, when we talk about bus garage, it's the Mon County School Bus Garage, not Mountain Lions.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
Just want
Right.
to clarify that.
Well, thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you
Everyone
for the
else, thank you all.
presentation.
Good to see you, thank you. So moving on to our next agenda item, is we have our TIP amendments, and you have them in your packet. Director Austin, if you would like to go over those.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have two sets of TIP amendments that I would respectfully request that the board consider separately. The first set of TIP amendments is from the Division of Highways, and these are, we've gone over this several times because we've had to amend the TIP several times for it. DOH got a very large grant to rehabilitate the I-79 bridges, basically in Mon County and also further south. And going through the programming process with the Federal Highway Administration and various administrative bureaucratic dealings, of which I don't know all the details, and maybe even Mr. Carr doesn't know all the details. They have worked out that they need to delete all the old projects and institute all new projects. And that's essentially what you see in the Division of Highways request to amend the TIP. And I don't believe there's a significant change in the total funding for the projects, but it's basically an administrative bureaucratic reshuffling of how the projects are described and the amendment and how they are funded. It is not really a significant change, but for clarity to the public, and we do need to amend the TIP for these projects. I can go over them in depth, but
No.
we can also avoid that. It was duly
We'll be there all
advertised to the
day.
public in the newspaper as well as on our websites and other websites.
Do we have a motion to accept these tip amendments?
I move we accept.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So that part is accepted.
Yeah.
The second set of amendments?
The second set of amendments this is basically our annual adoption of Mountain Line's budget. It reflects the new funding available to Mountain Line as well as carryover funds to Mountain Line. I will say that we will need to do an administrative adjustment to this in that the CMAQ funding, the third line down, FTA has asked them to outline their funding in a little different fashion, putting all of the funds for that CMAQ program into 2023. But it is not a change in the total funding available to Mountain Line for the CMAQ program, and that is the MPO Mountain Line van pooling program, which I do have good news in talking to Mountain Line about that WVU Medicine as well as Mon General has expressed an interest in participating in the van pool program and getting van pools running to their areas. But so we will make that administrative adjustment, but otherwise this is simply reflective of Mountain Line's ongoing budget, and we do this every year. It has been duly advertised, and the CAC and the TTAC have recommended adoption by the policy board.
Thank you. What's your all's pleasure? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, that also passes.
Yeah.
You'll communicate that, Bill.
Yeah.
Moving on to the public policy, involvement policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Moberly was tasked with reviewing our public involvement policy. We are to review it every 2 to 3 years to make sure it's up to date and up to speed. She's looked at contemporaneous public involvement policies around the state and in Pennsylvania, I believe, as well, to review the policy to make sure that we were up to speed. She's also, I think, significantly improved the graphics associated with public involvement policy. We have not made a significant change to the public involvement policy, but with the new user-friendly graphics and everything, we would appreciate the MPO Policy Board adopting this amended public involvement policy.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve that?
Move to approve.
Second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to the request for proposals on call engineering and planning services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several of our colleagues around the state, and the state has also adopted an on-call engineering policy with all these grants that are coming out, and also with when needs pop up, like we have a problem with an intersection that needs to be redesigned and so forth. The procurement policy can be slow. And so what this does is we pre-qualify engineering firms to work for the MPO on quickly needed projects rather than having to draw up an RFQ and go through the whole process for it. We have done a draft process. We've looked at the Hagerstown Eastern Panhandle MPO's policy and several other policies for acquiring on-call services from an engineering firm for planning services. We also feel this would be applicable potentially with a Safe Streets for All grant if we were to get it. And so it really at this point does not entail any expenditure by the MPO, but what it would do is allow us to have a contractual arrangement with up to 3 engineering firms for on-call services. I also know that the city of Morgantown is working on this same thing. In case there was a project that came up that needed to be engineered or planned quickly, and it would just make us a more facile agency in being able to respond to the needs of the MPO. And so what we are requesting is that the policy board authorize us to release this to the engineering firms so we can acquire up to 3 engineering services to work for us on call. We may only go with 1, but it's felt best to have the potential for more than one firm. One thing that we have identified is that the traffic count program, the state is really going in depth with their traffic count program, so it may not be easy for us to latch on and use their consultants to do our local traffic counts. That is a project that we could turn over to one of these on-call engineering firms to have them contract and do the traffic counts. So that is one immediate potential use for this on-call services contract.
So you need action on the board?
It's not formally necessary, but I did want to inform the board completely that we were doing this because we will have a contract that could come out of it that we would want the board to approve.
Okay,
Is
thank you.
there an expectation of, time length, say they'll be under contract for a one or?
It's a one-year contract with an option to renew for a second year, is how we structured the RFQ.
I think that's similar to what, HEP does
Yes.
as well.
It is. So, and that way, we would ensure that we would have a good opening of the applicant pool every 2 years.
So they would bid on being that particular company?
They would give us, for example, their hourly rate for an engineer and so forth, basically a bid, and we would, and also identify the project personnel who would be involved and so forth. So we would basically pre-qualify them,
Understand that.
understand the rates.
Essentially what happens then is if you get a project that needs to come on and bring somebody on board, you don't have that 2, 3, 4 months cumbersome
Oh,
process.
oh, yeah.
And each project will have to be negotiated in price as to, the scope of work and everything that's going to be done. So, every one of them will be, individualized with the
Yeah,
scope
my
of
only
work.
concern was that if you've given it to 2 year and then I start a new company, how do I get on that? I don't mean me, I'm just
Yeah.
using an example, but somewhere along the line, everybody should have a chance to bid on being the on-call.
Right, and that's why we're making it so it could be renewable after 1 year, because also to be fair for those applicants who have applied and actually been successful, a 1 year potential service is really probably not worth their while. And so we give them the option to renew unless we find they provide unsatisfactory work.
So it's
Then we
essentially-
wouldn't renew their contract.
So it's essentially a 2-year
Yeah,
deal.
essentially, right.
And I will say that anytime you get a consultant on board, it's like with any MPO, every year you guys have to do your UPWPs at the beginning anew. So any work that would come about that's not in your current UPWP would have to, seek funds from, the DOH and as well as local funds to contract some of these projects out. At first glance, it seems like most of them are gonna be fairly low dollar costs, like say a few traffic counts that might get you $10, $20, $30,000 type of thing versus potentially a grant that you might wind up having to pay an engineering firm like $2 million or something like that. So that's a whole different ballgame.
I understand how it would expedite.
Yeah.
I'm just rewinding back to the initial, who gets to play with the cool kids.
Yeah,
That's what I'm-
it will be fully advertised, and in fact, I've already been contacted by representatives of 2 small firms asking for this, and it's pretty well known among the engineering community, and we will especially contact ACEC, which is the state's engineering. We'll make sure that it's well publicized so everybody gets an opportunity to bid on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we use a lot of engineers in the school system too, but I just wanna make sure everybody has an equal shot at that playing field.
And we'll make sure when we release it that there's, everybody's informed about it as well as we can. We also usually put in an advertisement in the newspaper of record and those sorts of things as well as on our website. So we'll promote it.
Do you want any volunteers to sit on a, interview
Selection committee.
You've already been volunteered.
I've been voluntold a lot of things.
And so is Mike.
So, I just wanted to throw that out there for any members.
If any-
If Sean says one more word, he's on that.
Yeah,
list,
that's right.
We typically have run it through the TTAC, but of course, if any policy board wants to,
You have a lot of
Participate.
qualified people too on that
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah, yes, we do. We have two City of Morgantown engineering staff, we have the county planning director, we have Mr. Carr.
Okay.
So that was our primary focus, was to use our TTAC and their professional.
Bill, I just have, and rather than belabor this meeting, I just have a couple questions about the RFP. Can I get with you after?
Sure.
So the board is the board taking an action on this?
No.
No,
Okay.
no
Then-
action.
Then as it.
It's more
evolves, then you can
information.
still
Yeah,
set-
yeah,
Yeah.
if there needs to be a modification after our discussion, we'll be happy to
Yeah,
modify.
okay.
Okay, because the question I see is I see a disconnect between the technical evaluation and the financial evaluation, and I need to understand that.
All right,
Okay.
sure.
But I'll make it a point to give you a call.
Well, it's actually typically, and this is in line with the state procurement policies.
Mhm.
That's the way they prefer to operate. That's why there's a disconnect.
Yeah, as you are aware, I'm quite aware of the state's policy and
Yeah.
how it conflicts with the federal policy.
Right.
And it does, there's gaps there,
Yeah,
so, okay.
sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Next item, proposed safe streets for all grant, zero fatalities resolution, and we will need action on this item.
yes, we will need action on this. Mr. Chairman, as we've discussed with the policy board in the past and held several meetings, the MPO is interested in going forward with the Safe Streets for All grant application. We've had projects proposed to be included in the grant application from Star City, Granville, the City of Morgantown. We worked with Monongalia County, who's been interested in the Willie Street project that was mentioned by earlier. And we've also been working with Councilman Harshbarger to determine if there's some interest in WVU Medicine and potentially Mon General participating. In addition to the actual construction projects we're talking about, which are mostly simple pedestrian crossings, though there are several large projects. And there's, Town of Granville has a large project as well. They're basically simple crossing projects, but part of the grant application is to have a resolution adopting the zero fatalities policy. The county commission has adopted that, thank you all very much. And it would be extremely helpful for our application if the MPO policy board would also adopt a resolution adopting that zero fatalities. And I will preface this to say, I would imagine it would be an easy vote, because who would want to be voting for traffic fatalities?
So my question would be,
Yeah.
you want us to go ahead and do
And
move that
adopt
forward
I
it.
move
tonight?
that we approve the resolution as
second?
presented.
Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then that passes. Travel policy amendment.
Mr. President, I didn't realize this was gonna happen. I'm gonna ask if we could go back to the tip amendments, because I thought we were gonna at least discuss this. And if you go back to the third page.
Okay.
And let me just explain why.
Yeah.
This is adjusted where we don't have any voting. There's no require approval by the policy board. But the West Virginia DOH, and I feel slipped this in, and I think we need to look at this, or at least make a comment. Go down about the fourth one, River Road Slides has moved from 2022 to 2023. My concern is, we're
Actually,
about to open up.
23.
23, 24, yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, I had the 23, 24. My concern is we're about to open up Mountaintop Bottling in November. We're about to put 100 trucks in Westover. I know, I really appreciate the DOH is pushing to try and get DuPont Road, done, because we put that up there. But my concern is, I think if this goes by, it kind of gives the impression that we're not concerned about River Road. So I know we can't do anything, except what I'm gonna ask is if we could write a letter to them saying that we're concerned about this, because with 100 trucks, whether the trucks go on it or other trucks go on it or other cars, you're gonna have a lot more traffic on that River Road, staying away from those 100 trucks going to the mountain. And I'm just concerned about that, and I don't know if anyone's, I thought we were just gonna, usually you just mention and say there's
Yeah,
things we
I'm
can't
sorry.
do, so I apologize not doing it earlier, but would there be a problem, it's just writing a note saying that it is a concern with the opening of the mountaintop bottling.
And I certainly would be happy to.
Is that all right
provide
with the
With
letters.
it, is that all right with the
Or any, I shouldn't say, does anyone have an objection to that?
Yeah,
I don't have an objection, I actually had questions along with
Okay.
Tom's, about that whole list, why everything is being moved a year. And spatially, I was concerned also Holland
oh, I
Avenue.
knew that, I didn't
Holland
know.
Avenue.
That's what I was gonna bring up too.
And
Yeah, I know, I didn't even want to touch that.
Part of that may be because the city of West Irvine, the money they're using for the sewer line and all that. And I even understand the DOH, if they do any work in that
Have to
area,
wait.
they gotta pick up the bricks and put them on pallets and a whole bunch of stuff that's gotta happen. But that is a terrible piece of road through there. And to delay that another year, and with Mountaintop Beverage,
Yes.
we're gonna see some clogs going in there until, or speed up getting the interchange done over there
Right.
at 153, and that'll help a lot of it altogether.
It was my understanding that the ADA access on the sidewalks was part of what was holding it up, but
That's
they've
correct.
got that completed now.
Mhm.
And a lot of those up through there, so I'm assuming we're still moving forward.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
151.
as far as I know, we're moving up. On that
Hardly
one,
grows.
Mr. Statler,
No,
what I
I'm
would
glad you
do is
tried.
ask Mr. Card to look into that. And if we need to write a letter about it, let me know and we'll write a letter about it. If you'll look into the Holland Avenue, why it's being delayed.
But we're
Or at
gonna go
least-
ahead and write the letter on the,
Yeah, we'll go ahead.
My
and-
concern is they may not realize that Mountaintop is opening up.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. is
Yeah,
I
they
gotta
probably
let
did
it
not
go.
know that, and,
And so we'll definitely write the
yeah,
letter
we just want to
on
make
that.
them aware of it, just so,
And,
yeah.
and then, because I think there's a coordination issue that's happening with Holland Avenue, so I'll ask Mr. Carr to look into that, and
Yeah.
if that's the coordination they're holding up because Westover's working on that issue, then we
Yeah,
can
that could
report
be.
back to the board, otherwise, I'll discuss it with the chairman and we'll write a letter expressing
Right.
concern about it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that whole Holland Avenue thing was sewer lines, which is
Yeah,
Westover
it-
sewer
Yeah,
line.
it may take
Love
an
has
extra
a
year
water
for
line,
that, I don't know.
Yeah,
and then
Yeah.
the state has the highway part.
I just
Yeah.
know we're gonna be inundated once those trucks start. And I'm not talking about happy people.
yeah.
Do you
Do we-
need cities to pass this grant zero
Yes.
fatalities resolution?
Yes, I forwarded it to the city manager and I think I copied you on it. I'll forward it again.
Can you
Okay.
send it to our clerk?
Thanks, that's a,
I can.
okay.
I may need to get her address again.
Yeah,
Her
yeah, so
email
if you'd
address.
send it to the city clerk, cause she, would be getting that on the agenda for us.
Okay.
all right.
Okay.
So moving forward to the
Thank you.
travel,
Wait a minute.
policy amendment.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Patty.
Bill,
Yes.
what about the smaller cities, like us and Star City and
Oh,
Weston? Do we
certainly.
need to do that resolution
Say,
as
we
well?
should all be.
That
should
that would all
all-
be
should all be
very
doing
helpful. I did send out an email to all of the communities about it. I'll resend it.
Okay.
Okay,
It may get lost in all the emails somewhere.
yes, okay, thank you.
Yes. I did send one a
Okay.
while back. I'll resend it.
Yeah.
Does this need to be done at our next meeting, or do we have time?
The application deadline is September the 15th.
Okay.
But we really need to have the application together, at least all the projects and everything by September the 8th.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the travel policy amendment.
yes. This is also part of our reviewing our operating procedures. And we had not looked at our travel policy for a long time, and I remember that Commissioner Sikora had suggested that we have a per diem policy. We reviewed our other travel policies as well and found that they were pretty adequate, but we did include a per diem policy for out-of-state travel in the future. And it is based on the General Services Administration policy for travel in West Virginia, and it is excluding Charleston, the larger cities. But, so I think it's a good adequate policy because looking at the amounts, I'm very satisfied with them. But, so
Yeah,
that's,
I just got an email at 4:41 today that the policy, the rates, just the 23 rates are in. So you may want to update it and then I mean, it'd be simple to update it.
Yeah. Or at the direction of the policy board with the adoption to update to the 23 rates.
Yes,
Under-
if
under
you
other
make it
business.
so that the policy says that you're gonna follow the
That gives me
rates in
opportunity.
effect.
Okay. We'll do that. And so we'll just adjust it to those
Do we
rates.
need an action on that?
Yeah, we need to
So I'll
adopt
need
it.
a motion
Move
Yeah.
that
for
we
approval.
approve.
I'll
Second,
second it.
Patty seconds.
Second,
Any
second, as long
discussion?
as long as it is, in line with the current rates.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Any
you.
additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to other business, or if it's all right with you all, comments from the policy board. I know some folks waited around, so we'll put it under both categories. So anyone with a comment or other business?
I'll do.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Here to represent the city of Westover, a lot of the residents, it's not necessarily my feeling, but a lot of them aren't in favor of putting a new exit in for the industrial park. It's not that they're not in favor of it, they're in favor of not having the River Road improved or even drivable, for the DuPont Road. The road is, you're gonna spend, I don't know how many millions of dollars to put a new exit in to help the industrial park. And I don't hear very well, but I thought you said something about you're gonna have 100 trucks a day.
60 to 100 trucks a day.
Well, I have a piece of property in Fort Martin that I've been doing a little farming on, but I have about 400 trucks a day to go past my driveway. That's no big deal to me.
But those 60 to 100 trucks will go through, say, Holland Avenue, up
Yeah,
to
those
DuPont.
trucks are gonna go through Westover.
They're gonna go to the
Well,
middle
goes
of
through
Westover.
Yes, but there's other people down there. 100 trucks a day, but then how many trucks per hour? You had probably more than that, close to that went to the Beechhurst Avenue power plant every day. They hauled coal in, hauled fly ash out, they hauled limestone from Greer every day to Beechhurst Avenue power plant.
And that's why we have the problem we have in Greenback Road.
And that was not really much of a problem, because I
Well,
worked
Mr.
at
Sullivan,
the Beechhurst power plant doing things for them, not as employed by them.
Mr. Sullivan, in all due respect, the years that we've been talking about this project, the residents of Westover that have come and spoke to
Yeah.
this board and come and
asked for it.
spoke to the commission have almost unanimously been in favor of this extension, of this new interchange. So
They
you're,
would be more in favor of it if some of the local, roads were improved for them to use. You drive out past the city of Westover toward the four-way stop out there, you got great big speed bumps, you got a 12-inch drop-off on one side where, one of MSW's trucks dropped off in it and laid over on its side. That's great that you're talking about spending these millions and millions of dollars. And I don't know how many millions of dollars you're talking about on this project for the 155 mile marker, but that's like almost a gateway to city of Morgantown. But you get off the interstate, you drive down there, and you got very big speed bumps in the road that are bigger than railroad ties. And,
Yeah.
it's just,
Mr. Solomon, I fully understand that there
I
are
know
a great deal of
the problem
concerns.
is to do with the federal money projects, but,
I'm
a
trying
lot of
to,
these people don't get the opportunity to even, the representative here from the Department of Highways, but you go down to Clarksburg, where I-79 and 50 comes together, and you go down 50 west, they used to have a few bumps down there, but they've all been ground down. But I don't see any of that being done in the Morgantown area.
Well, let me ask you this, Bill, could you all get together with the DOH? and-
yeah,
$3
we
to
can
$5
do
million
that.
to get access from the back of that road, that business. Who are you really, half of that road going through Westover is out of the city limits.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get get
Well,
together.
Yeah, we will definitely get together, and I would also encourage you, I have been reaching out, or trying to reach out to the mayor, about this Safe Streets for All grant that I'm working on. And if there are projects that Westover would like included in that grant, we will be happy to work with Westover on including it in that grant. So,
And also, we want to know when that project's going to go from the Westover Bridge to improve 19 up through there.
yeah,
Could you get an update on
I mean,
that
I
too?
think
yeah,
that was
we
put out for
can get an
bid.
update on
Was
that.
that put out for bid?
The Holland Avenue project?
Yeah.
I mean, actually, part of, part one was like, say, getting all the ADA ramps. That
Right.
was the first thing we had to do. We can't put a federal $1 on that road until we got all the ramps upgraded. And I drove through it this afternoon, and it looks like most, if not all of those have already been done. I don't know what the next step is. I heard somebody mention about having to go pick up bricks. I don't know, but I made a note to go back and see what the plan is, moving forward. We're trying to get that, roadway, resurfaced, brought up to par. And once I do, I'll relay that back to Mr. Austin, and then he can share that with the board.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
Commissioner
Need to know
Sikora
what's
has
going on.
to leave, but he would like to make a comment before he leaves too.
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to respond to the residents that came in, we're talking about the Van Voorst project. Again, we understand your concerns, we understand your issues. It's at this part of the project where we really don't know what DOH is offering for those locations. And I'm not talking monetary, I'm talking access. So we don't know what their solution is for those projects. Correct, Bill?
That's correct.
I mean, until you have those conversations and you actually go through that process, we don't know what that's going to look like. Like for instance, for your business, Kevin, I know that I know that it's not optimal as it is, and there needs to be a conversation to figure out how that connection to your business could be optimal and could be improved. And I think that's all going to happen in the conversations with DOH. Correct? I mean, it's all part of the process.
I mean, any access that's there now, I mean, we would have to maintain access, of course. How that's going to be, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's up to the designers, to move forward with this, so.
And just to also clarify, with the right-of-way acquisition process, there is frequently a deal worked out, basically. To
And I can speak to that specifically, not on this process, but when we were working with the city and WVU on Beechhurst, we, basically the first 3 designs, it was to go back to the drawing board to a degree on where the wall locations are gonna be and that sort of stuff. So that will occur, that will 100% occur.
Yeah.
And there'll be an opportunity for us to even facilitate that to occur.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get to that point.
Yeah,
to have-
and I understand that you're concerned about your property, you're concerned about your businesses, but the construction trucks aren't showing up tomorrow, and this is a very long process. We're just starting to talk about the right of ways and the options that would be made available. And then that's, and then we're certainly, obviously, I'm a phone call away to talk through that process. I have some of the same concerns you have about improving the access to that intersection before you fix the intersection. So again, it's still all part of the process that's working its way forward. It's not gonna happen tomorrow. You've been keeping us informed of your concerns, and we're listening. But right now, we've gotta let DOH do their job as far as plan what they can do, what they ultimately are gonna end up doing. And that's still, like the president said here, that still could be multiple iterations before they get to a point that it might be something that's acceptable to the property owners. So we're not there yet, but we're going to continue listening, and we don't. You come here, it doesn't fall on deaf ears, but we get complaints all the time about, we gotta let DOH do their job, and they're the experts as far as to tell us when we're looking at a project, we know, we steer them to where projects needed, and then they make decisions as far as what that project looks like and what type of changes are gonna occur. So that's what we're at the point now where we're waiting to actually see what that process looks like as they start working with the property owners. Does that make
Others?
sense?
Anyone else have any business?
No, I think that's a good characterization.
Yes, sir.
I continue on. First of all, thank you. I appreciate your enlargement here for the property owners. We are concerned. And hopefully that we will see some sort of resolution that's satisfactory.
And this is city property.
Yes, it is.
So, and Bill, we've had these conversations about it, but we almost like can't act on what we don't know yet. Sorry, Bill.
No, it's quite all right. I share their frustration. Unfortunately, the things that we do are, 20, 50, 30-year problems that we'll live with. And the best thing to do is to try to find a better solution now first. And speaking to that, hearing tonight, again about pedestrian problems down perhaps on Beechhurst across from Reynolds Hall, that has been a concern for me. I really don't want to see another Woodbine Island situation.
My family's been down in the parking lot for a half hour, so
Safe
I
trip.
do.
Oh, the new one.
You and I will
Okay,
catch
now
up.
I understand.
Safe trip.
Gotcha.
In any case, I don't want to build habits and answer unfortunate incidents that may occur. So I'd really like to see us spend some attention to what we might do in terms of to remediate some of the initial problems now before we have any problems in the future. So I'd like somehow to address that.
And I think, Bill, too, and I know we've had this conversation and they're opposed to it, but I think what Mr. Cross brought up that we'd all would like to see is the RFBs down there. That would be a very good first step. I don't know where we're at in those discussions, and I know there's been opposition on state roads, but I think it's worth revisiting this from the onset.
Well, and to their credit, the DOH has brought in people to do traffic studies for us and pedestrian right-of-way studies for us. I'd like to see some of them move quicker and be more specific to immediate needs, and this seems to be one of them.
Can you speak to, I forget the lady's name, Donna?
Yeah.
And-
And just, and this is actually also part of the Safe Streets for All grant. That area is part of the Division of Highways Safety Program, Pedestrian Safety Program for Morgantown. And Donna Hardy, who is the state's safety engineer, is actually overseeing various projects on that. And I will certainly bring that up with her. She is the one that's been working with us with the Laurel Street crossing. And she's also been, at this point, the way she's working, it's really been low-hanging fruit. She's also been concerned with the Chestnut Street crossing out here on Walnut. So I know she's going to be working on that, but we can also bring this to her attention as being a high priority for the policy board
That's fine.
to deal
Where-
with.
Which one on Walnut? Oh, the
Right
one-
out
the
here?
one right here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the one right here, and then
The one
the one you
I'll-
dodge cars every other
The
time.
one I'll be using to go to my car.
Yeah,
this evening.
exactly.
Glenn Frogger.
Yeah.
Frogger.
Any other comments or new business? I know we've ran a little long tonight, but appreciate it. I do want to say one thing, and that is, sometimes progress, it takes longer than what we want it to take. But certainly, we're seeing that happening. Someone alluded to it on the mile ground. There's movement now on Greenbag. There's movement on other things, and that have been a long time in the coming. And this 155 is another good example that we're hearing from the Government Affairs Committee or the Chamber or you name it. But I think we need to keep, as a community, saying that is an important gateway to so many of our communities and keep that on the forefront. So that's my commentary for tonight, so.
One voice.
So,
Voice.
exactly. With that said, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So we are adjourned. Thank you. Bill, do you need to copy that sign-in?